Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Not sure where you're at. Could you please confirm to me in the chat that you can hear me well? All right, then let's get started. Nice. Oh, great to have you all here. Oh, I actually recognize some names. Really good to have you here. Okay, so as promised, we're going to have 3 sessions on JavaScript, and this is the first one. And this is going to be a really easy session, so to say. So if you've never done any coding, you're going to be fine because this is actually what this first session is for. If you have done some coding already, you may actually find this one a bit easy for you, but please just go ahead and ask any questions that you may have. So I'm going to be sharing my screen here. There we go. Ah, nice. I really see a lot of names I know. This is so cool. This is really nice. So too bad I don't have time to actually chat with everybody and ask how you're all doing, but I'm definitely going to do so after this session. So today is going to be a really smooth introduction to JavaScript. And we're not going to make it too difficult because the main focus is going to be what JavaScript is for, and then we'll do some light coding. So our session is going to consist of 3 parts. And I said it's going to be 5 to 7, but I'm not sure if you really need a 5 to 7 because it depends a bit on how fast you're going to be able to do the exercises here. So the first part of the session is today. We are going to focus on some, well, more basic concepts. Then the next session, we're really going to actually make some quick steps there already. So maybe if today is tough for you and it's all very new, it may be good for you to do some homework in between the sessions. And I'm going to help you with this homework because at Discord, I'm going to be sharing some resources that you can go through. You can see the Discord link in the link that it should be showing underneath the video. So if you join this channel on Discord, then I can share you the homework, and also I'll be sharing the slides over there, which is going to be very nice working your way through the exercises. So next session, more complex JavaScript, and then the third session, we're actually going to be making a mini web app already. So that's very promising. So let's get to it. Before we start, I would actually like to hear in the chats who has some experience with coding already. I mean, I know some people who have, but it's nice to hear whether it's really your first time to coding or whether perhaps you have never really done JavaScript, but you are very experienced in maybe Java, C# or Python or any other popular language. So please let me know if this is your first time or whether you have some other languages that you don't have done already. So let's see, I think Karunya, I'm not sure if I pronounce your name correctly, but what languages do you have experience with? Please just drop them in the chat because I can actually make it easier sometimes by explaining the differences. Ah, PowerShell, I see. Nice. This is a nice language, Banu, but it's very different though. Java, even some JavaScript. Ah, nice. I see quite some languages already. So there are some people who do know some coding already, then this is going to be a bit easier. And see even some JavaScript, R, C++. Oof, then you really know how to code. Yeah, this is going to be nice then. All right. So we're not all new here, so that's actually quite good to know. More Java, SQL. Ah, nice. There's so much experience in here already. Pascal, Nim, even. D, I don't know D. I mean, I know C, but I can imagine a D came afterwards, but nice. A lot of languages. All right, then maybe who can tell me what is JavaScript? Before I'm going to show you the slide that's actually going to reveal the answer, who can tell me what is JavaScript? Not even what, well, maybe what we use it for. It's almost the same, right? C++, C#. Oh, that's a lot of languages out there. So we have quite some knowledge amongst us already. Well, then it's going to be no surprise that JavaScript is actually a programming language. And you could sort of call it the backbone of the World Wide Web when it comes to logic. Over 95% of all our websites use JavaScript, but we can actually do more with just JavaScript than just that. So if we're going to have a look at what we can build with JavaScript, the answer is not only going to be logic in websites. It's going to be a bit more. There's a lot of more options for what we can do with JavaScript. So for example, if we have JavaScript and we make the step to Node.js, we can actually create the backend of applications, which I'm going to get to in a bit if you don't know what that is. But we can also create that using JavaScript. So really web apps front to end can be created using JavaScript. So this is really a lot of options that we have when we start learning JavaScript. So let's have a look at how web apps are built up. So Jonas,
Mogen we die stengels?
up, go, 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 go.
Oh, ik heb vragen.
Ja, nice. Oké.
Die vragen nog niet. Hè?
Nee, het maakt me niet heel veel uit.
Mogen we
Kijk eens, kijk eens. Zie je dat daar zo? Iedereen ziet jou nu. Sorry about this, guys. Apparently someone let him through. Go, 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 go. Ja, alles mag, weet je, wat normaal. Ja, je mag gewoon eten pakken, hebben we afgesproken. All right. Sorry, guys. Yep, that's sometimes what you get with a Saturday. Well, it's better than the morning still. Yes, he is very cute. Okay. Yeah, so before we're really going to look at the JavaScript language, let's just take a step back and have a look at how web apps are built up. So usually when I talk about web apps, I think of 3 layers. Does anyone have a clue which layers I'm talking about when I say this? I'm thinking about 3 layers when we're talking about web apps. Anyone tell me a bit about these layers? Oh, yes. Yes, I see some markup style logic. Backend, front-end, middleware. MVC. Yes, it's actually all front-end, middle database. Yes, so this is really indeed what I'm heading at. So I made it a bit more descriptive, but it's really a lot of what I'm looking at. So when I think of web apps, I think of 3 layers that are very much in the idea of what you guys are mentioning here, but I've described them like this. So there's a part what you see, a bit of logic, and a place where the data is being stored. So to take an example, if I want to log in on my phone, perhaps, and I want to log in to, I don't know, maybe my insurance company, then I will have to enter my fingerprint to do this. So my phone doesn't actually know whether my fingerprint is the right fingerprint associated to this app. So the part that I see on my device is the first layer. But in order to know whether I can actually log in, there needs some logic that needs to be happening, and I cannot see this happening. If I'm using my fingerprint, and it can either say, yes, I recognize it, or perhaps no, I did not. But this is some logic. And my phone doesn't know this, so this needs to be stored somewhere. It needs to be verified at some place. Is this indeed the fingerprint that we stored for this account? Well, encrypted clearly. So these 3 layers are really what's it all about. Onion set layers. Nice one, Gary. Yes. So these layers, this is actually where we'll be using JavaScript as well. Can anyone tell me in what layer we can use JavaScript here? See a lot of answers yet. And it's actually a tough one, because even if you do know what layer I'm talking about, you might still wonder, is it in the what you see part over there, or is it more in the logic? And well, actually, it can be in both. So it's usually logic, but this logic can be manipulating what you see on your device. So it's some sort of edge case. So it's a bit of a mean question when it comes to this. By the way, all the people that said MVC, Model View Controller, which is a sort of design principle architecture, if you want to call it, this is very something that you can see here as well. So what you see would be the V, the view. The model is some sort of layer on top of the database. It's not the actual database, but it's a layer on top of the database, but it's actually still in the logic. So let's say it's the bottom of the logic, and then the controller that's in the logic. So yes, that's also very similar. But this JavaScript, you really see it in these, well, let's just say it's an edge case. You can't really see it, but it's influencing what you see. So let's just call it logic for now, but it's actually really influencing what we see on our device. So I've heard a lot of people say front end, back end already as well. So if we talk about front end, we really mean the part what you see on your device. And then with back end, we really mean the logic and the database layer. But this has become more blurry lately. Well, lately, for the last few years already. This is actually due to some frameworks that we've been using with JavaScript. So think of Angular, React, Vue.js, all these frameworks, they made this line a bit blurry. So we cannot really say anymore right now, oh, logic, yeah, that's backend, because a lot of the logic is actually happening in front end. And with that, I actually mean it's happening in our browser. So in order to explain this a bit better, it might be nice to have a look at these three icons over here. And I actually saw some people in the training who have seen these three icons from me already because they've taken other courses of me. But I really like these to explain a certain concept, the client-server model. And if you say this to software developers, they may not understand what you mean with this immediately because it's not always called this, but this is actually how it's working a lot. So the image that we see on the left, this is the device of the user. And actually, I could add a phone in by now or a tablet, but it's the user device. So it's the what you see on the screen part. Then the one in the middle is a server, and this server is outside of your computer. So this is really about web apps here or mobile apps. And on this server, there's a whole bunch of logic that's running, but this logic doesn't know anything. In order to know anything, it needs the image all the way on the right, and that's the database. So if we go back to the example of logging in with our insurance company, then we would say that the opening the app, this is happening on our device. Then when we send in our fingerprint, this is the point where it's going to be sending a signal over here to the server of the insurance company asking, hey, do you know this combination of username and fingerprint? Well, the server knows how to find this out, but it doesn't know it's him or herself. So in order to find this out, it's actually going to be talking to the database. And this database does have the answer and it's going to give a response back. Either it knows or it doesn't know this person. And depending on the answer, the server is going to give a certain response back to the client. So this would be the client and this is the server. And I could make this a bit more complicated with extra layers in which the server would act as a client and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do this right now. Clearly, these three icons with only 4 arrows are a very, very simplified explanation, but this usually helps to understand what's going on here. So there can be logic happening in here. And when there's no request being sent to the server, but logic is happening on the website, this is typically due to JavaScript. And this is usually, these are simple examples. So for example, logic like a menu item that rolls open when you click on it, or when you accept the cookie notification on a website and the message disappears, or a chatbot that pops up after 30 seconds asking, hey, can I help you? And actually all sorts of buttons. You can think, for example, of calculations on websites, so a simple calculator. This is probably being done on your client without any connection to the server. But, and this is actually a fun part, you don't really know whether this is happening in some cases on the client or on the server as a user. Because, for example, if I want to be doing some certain calculations for a company, maybe I want to go to, I don't know, a bank and calculate my maximum loan I could get. Well, it's possible that it's going to be using only the client, so the logic on the website, the JavaScript in this case, to be finding this out. But maybe the bank actually has some sort of benefits from storing this data, so it might actually be storing it. But then in order to store it, this means that it has to go via the server. Maybe the calculation is done on the server. Sometimes you just don't really know. It's possible to have it implemented on the client side, or maybe it's implemented on the server side. So before I'm going to go any further, I would like to ask whether there are any questions. It's quite quiet in the comment section. All right. So just to be clear, the JavaScript that we are going to be looking at is going to be JavaScript that we use on the client side. So the JavaScript on the device in the web browser. So you can see it right here. The JavaScript that's used on this one, this is what we're going to be working with today. You can also write JavaScript for the server using Node.js, and then it would be more of the backend code that's being done in JavaScript. But for now, we're really going to be focusing on JavaScript in the web browser for these 3 sessions. So let's going to be start with some coding, and I'm actually going to use this book that Lawrence, me, and Rob wrote. And we're going to go through the first chapters of the book today, but I'm not going to do so in all the detail because then clearly we wouldn't manage this in the time that we're having for this. But I'm going to go to the most important concept roughly, show you one example, and then continue. If you want to have more examples or more in-depth knowledge, you have 2 options pretty much. You can either go ahead and buy the book, or you can go through the resource that I'm going to be sending you after the training through the Discord channel. So I'm going to be walking through the code examples now of our book. And then afterwards, I have some exercises for you. And clearly, you have the chance to do these exercises and also work with some resources that I'm sending over, because I'm going to send you the slides. I'm also going to send you some of the code snippets that we're doing. And the good news here is that you don't need to install anything. So if you're going to really work your way through the book, you're actually going to start with setting up your own environment, which is something I would definitely recommend. But I also want to make this very accessible, and I don't even know if everybody has a proper laptop. I assume that not everybody has a proper laptop. So let's just stick with coding in the browser for now. It's more limited, but for understanding the basics of JavaScript, it's still fine. So let me also go ahead and open this link. I will also share it in the comment section. I don't think it's going to be clickable. This is something I just learned from David, but at least it's going to be copyable, if that's a word. And that way you don't need to go ahead and type it yourself. So I have it over here. And let me just make this empty. So this is a bit weird, right? Because as you can see, I have Node.js selected now. So let me just go ahead and go for JavaScript here. But actually, it works fine for the most with Node.js as well. And just a few things that are slightly different. Oh. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be copying all my examples also to a file on my computer, and I'll share that with you afterwards so that you can just go ahead and see all the examples that I've made in this training. So you don't need to go ahead and, type along like a madman. No need to do that. I'll send you the examples afterwards. But I just want to show you quickly in which program I'm gonna be doing this. I'm gonna be doing this in Visual Code. And right now you can see I have actually a Python file open. And this is the cool thing about Visual Studio Code. If you were only to have one IDE on your laptop, then I would definitely advise this one because it's a very multi-purpose IDE. So if after the session you feel like, yes, I want to continue with JavaScript, then Visual Studio Code would be a really starting point for that. So let me go ahead, open up a new file. Examples, session 1. All right. computer is working. Ah, there it is. Really hard to open up this again. Great. So for me, it looks like StreamYard has crashed, but I hope that you guys can still see me, or well, more importantly, hear me. Mm, Maybe David, could you confirm whether it's still running smooth from a viewer's point? Because at this on my side, it looks like it has crashed completely. Ah, good. Then let's continue. So what do we have here? So in here, we have the option to select many languages. Well, today we're going to choose for JavaScript. And as I already mentioned, it will probably also work for 99% if you pick Node.js, so no problem, but let's pick JavaScript. And then we have our codes in this part of the screen. So the left part is containing the code, and the right part is containing the outputs. And here you can see a statement that we use to write output to the output console. So console.log, and then in there we can write whatever, and this will be printed in the output window. So if I write here, hello JavaScript, live sessions, and then I'm going to print it, it's going to show exactly that over here. All right. So that's clearly really nice, but it would be even better if we could see some more, right? So if we were to have something more flexible in there, we could actually print flexible messages. And we can make things more, well, flexible, or let's call it variable, because we're going to be talking about variables right now. We can make it more variables using variables. And we do so with a special keyword again. So we're going to say let over here, and then we're going to give a variable a name. So actually, in this case, the name is just going to be name. And then in here, I'm going to be storing a name. So one of my friends is in here, so I'm going to say, hello, Saram, and then I'm actually going to be printing his name to the console. So let's just go ahead and say, hello, plus, and then name. There we go. If I print this right now, we can see that it's going to appear in the chat. And so our output is flexible right now. And in the book, we have a lot of examples like this. So we make a variable, we assign it some sort of static value, and then we use it in our example. So the fun thing here is that actually this is not something that we really do a lot in code, because variables are not very variable if we assign them a direct value right away. So often this value is coming from outside. And one way to get a value from outside here is by using the prompts method. And I can then say, what's your name? And then the result, so the answer to this question, is going to be stored in name. And that's what we're going to be printing in our console log. So let me show you what's going to happen now. So I'm going to click run again. And it's pausing. It says, what's your name? Now, if I start typing right away, it's not doing anything. I need to click in here first. And now I can say something. So I can say, what's my name? And I'll go Micah, hit enter, and then it says, hello, Micah. So the next time I'm running this, it says, what's your name? And I could say something else. So for example, I could say hello and then go for Pascal. And it says, hello, Pascal. So now our variable is actually more variable. So this is a lot nicer, right? But still, in the examples, I'm going to be using a lot of examples where I'm just going to be using some direct in type value. So for example, let number equals, I don't know, 42. And as you can see, this is now the value of 42. It's not very variable, but we could override it later. So right now, at a new line, we could go ahead and assign a new value to it. So we could make it maybe 43. And then in here, we can also concatenate the number to it. So there we go. Let's use another name. There we go. And it's going to concatenate 43 to this. So 42, this is the value that I assigned to this first, but then I did an override with 43 on the next line. And please look at this one over here. So I have this let in front of my variable name only when I declare it the first time. If I want to do this and have the same variable in there again, This is actually giving a problem because the identifier, the name, number already exists, and it's going to try to save another one in its scope at this point, and it cannot because it has one with this name already. It's like you have two kids and you try to give them the same name. That's not very gonna work very well. So that's also not allowed. Same goes with JavaScript because then you don't, or well, it's not known what you're referring to when you say number. So if you want to store both numbers, you need to give them different names. And if you just want to override them, just make sure that you only declare it once, and then you can just use the variable name like this. Yeah. So that's some important notes about variables. Yes. So sure, it's gonna come kit 1 and kit 2, yeah, and then you can just go indefinitely with kit names. It's very efficient if you and your partner agree on that. So let me quickly have a sneak peek in my note. Yes. So there are some things I haven't mentioned yet at this point. And the first one that I haven't really mentioned or well said anything about yet is this semicolon at the back. Does anyone know why I put it there? Because if I remove it, it's actually still working fine. Look, nothing has changed. It's still working right now. See, still working. This is one of the miracles of JavaScript, right? It's actually still working if we don't put them in there, but it's really a best practice to do put them in there. And we never know who our interpreter is going to be, and it may as well require the semicolon over there. So please put it there. But JavaScript is actually very forgiving. If you forget one, it's still going to be working. If you forget one in, for example, Java or C#, your whole program is crashing, it's not running. But for JavaScript, it's just really the formatting, and we want to put semicolon over there. And I have a question. If you want to give everyone a new number, should you continue putting the number? Let's see. So I'm going to be showing this one. Or at least I'm. Or will it create a follow-up cell? I'm actually not sure if I get your question right, Nicole. So do you mean if you want to increment a number by 1 every time that you need to go ahead and override it? Well, there's some ways with the unary operator that we'll see in a bit that we can use to just increase it by 1. And then actually we also have, well, if you need to have 44 and 45 all as separate variables, we clearly need to give them all different names. Does that answer your question? So for only increasing 1, there is a special way to do it that I can show you in a bit. But if you want to just have many variables with the next number, yeah, so then you'll need all these separate numbers variables. But if it's an object, and again, then you could, well, we'll see this actually in the next session. Then you don't need to create number every time with a new name, but then there's just a definition for what a person is, and you can just go ahead and create new persons all the time. Yes. And Roy is actually elaborating on the semicolon, which is a very good one as well. So let me show this too. So first he says we have ASI, which stands for automatic semicolon insertion, and it just doesn't work in all cases. It doesn't understand all the places where it should be inserting a semicolon. So always put it there, even though it seems useless because it's 99% of the time working without one as well. And I get a really good question from, I'm not sure if I pronounce your name correctly, Smitri? Sriti? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Please let me know this once because we do sometimes chat. But yeah, so how does it know what the variable type is? Because in some languages, and many of the languages that you guys mentioned, there's actually a specific data type, right? So in Java, for example, if you want to create a number, you go ahead and you say, hey, I want to have an int declared. Or if you want to create a piece of text, you say, hey, I want to have a string declared. And here we can just go ahead and say, let. And then JavaScript is going to figure it out. And this is actually a very cool feature of JavaScript because it can determine the type for you. And well, if you have things that you need more specifically, there's a way to differentiate from it, but it can determine the type for you. Let's see if we're actually there already. Yeah, it's good. It's a nice little bridge to our next topic. So I'm going to be removing copying to my other files so that you guys can all read it later. So, so let's just go ahead and remove all this and just say we have a certain name. We go for 3T here, and we have a certain number again. So let's just go for 7. And well, let's just have stick to only string and number for now. So what JavaScript does, it has this thing indeed, Gary, called type inference, and this way it can determine what the type is itself. So JavaScript is going to look at this number and think, oh hey, this should be a number. And it's going to look at this quoted thing and it says, oh hey, that should be a string. So we can actually ask JavaScript what type it assigns. So let's just go ahead, say console log, and now we're going to use something special here. So we're going to say type of, and then name, like this. And console log, and then type of number. Again, semicolons in the back. And then you can see that the first one is a string, and the second one, it's a number. I'll also copy all this for you. Actually, some funny things going on in JavaScript as well with this. So because, for example, you have this very special value that you can assign, and this is null. And you have another special value that you can assign, and that's undefined. So let's just call this thing 2 or 1. We'll also do the trick, undefined. And also print their types. And I'm gonna run this. And then you can see, and this is the fun part, that null, it's an object. And well, I think this could be considered a bug, but well, after JavaScript 1, removing this would have broken a lot of projects. So it just left it in. But null in JavaScript is an object, whereas it's really not an object actually, but according to JavaScript it is. And then undefined is just undefined. Well, there's actually ways in which we can influence all this. So let me also go ahead and copy all this to the example file and then just see if I can trick you guys in asking some difficult questions. So let's just say this is a number. And I'm going to print the type of this number. Can anyone predict what the type is going to be? I'm going to hit the run button. What's the type going to be? So some people say string, some people say int. So string is the winning answer here. Because look, if we're gonna be running this, it's going to say string. And that's actually because of these quotes. If I remove these quotes, it's going to be a number again. But there's actually another way in which I can convert the type. So what I can also do is this. So I can say let, and then just call this actual number or something like that. And then I can say in here, I can actually gonna call a special function on this to go ahead and create it a number. So I'm gonna say number, and then in there, I'm gonna place our string. And then I'm gonna print the type of the actual number. And you can see that right now it has turned into a number. Ah, yes. So I see Mehmet was asking, the quotes make it a string. Yes, indeed. So this is what makes it a string. So let's see if I can confuse you guys a bit. So say I say hi. at the back of this. What is this going to do? What do you guys think? Is it going to crash? Is the type going to be string? Is it going to be a number? What will happen? Not a number. Yes, this is also a flavor of JavaScript. NaN, not a number. So let me show you what's happening. It says number. And the fun thing that's happening here, if we're not only going to be printing the actual number, let's also just print the number. Then what it did over here, it indeed created a NaN, not a number, which is funny enough of type number. So it's not a number, but it's of type number there. So, well, I mean, I love these creative choices. So not a number, NaN, is actually type number. And Kiran says, error? Well, actually, it's quite tough sometimes to get errors in JavaScript. The easiest one to get are the identify that's already existing, and well, there's a few other errors you could create, but it's very forgiving and very creative. So it really tries to just go ahead and do the best for you. So we could actually also do this with strings. So say we have at some point a certain value, a string, but we insert a 6 in there. Well, then again, if we're gonna ask JavaScript, so what's the value or what's the type of our string, then it's going to say number. Why? Well, there are no quotes. Clearly, I could just go ahead and place quotes at the back of this, but well, it would be more fun to show you how to do this with codes. Let's go ahead and create the actual string. And then in here, I can just insert this one. And then let's check the type of the actual string. And you can see that right now our string is actually a string. So this is pretty much just placing, this method is just placing the quotes around it. Are there any questions at this point? I'm going to throw one, or well, it depends a bit on how you count, but one main topic at you, and these are more operators. So actually, we have seen operator already, the type of, and well, actually two. We've also seen the plus. But we're gonna have a look at some other mathematic operators right now, some assignment operators, and some comparison operators, and maybe, well, also do logical operators. So let's just go ahead and copy this to our file. Right. So let's just start with two numbers. Number one, in which I'm going to be inserting 34, and number two, which is going to be 7. Now, we can do all sorts of operations on this. So, for example, we could do an addition, and I'm just going to write what I'm going to do on top of this with the comment, and we haven't seen comment yet either. So comment starts with 2 slashes, and this is just telling JavaScript, just ignore this part. This is for the human reader. So this is just for us to understand that this is going to be an addition. So, well, I think this actually didn't really require a comment, but it might be nice for some of the other ones I'm going to show you. This way, I can be adding the numbers, but I could also be subtracting them with the minus sign, for example. So let's just do that as well. We can multiply them. I think these are so far all quite straightforward, but there are going to be a few in a bit that are less straightforward. You can divide them. and I'm just printing it. I could also be storing this in another variable, for example, but I don't want to create all these variables at this point. But I could, for example, say result or let result equals number divided by number 2. Oh, this is actually going to be giving some errors here because there is no number identifier declared. So I had to use number 1. So there's actually a few that are maybe a bit less common. And the first one is this one. So this is to raise it to a certain power. So I think it's called the exponent. I'm actually not sure. Let's just say raised to power. There we go. And then say number 1 and then 2 asterisks, number 2. And then I can do one more thing. This is really fun, the modulus. And this is actually one that I've learned that not all people know. But this is just trying to see how often, well, let me just type this first, and then we actually have the thing on the screen. So what it's going to do here, it's going to see how often number 2 fits in number 1 entirely. So in this case, we have 7 and 34. So 7 is going to fit in this 4 times at 28, and then it's going to have 6 left. So this 6 left, this is the answer. So it's the remainder of the full division, so to say. Let's just run this first, but maybe before I'm gonna run this, let's also just put the operator in front so that we actually know what we are talking about. Let's run this. Yes, so actually I did a funny thing here. Who can tell me what happened? So these are all fine, right? So I entered this plus in here, and then I figured, I need to explain something else because this is gonna give a funny result. So this is weird, right? 34 plus 7 doesn't equal 347, but it does it fine for all the others. So this is 27. This is probably going to be the right answer. This all looks fine. But what happened here? Who can tell me? She might guess it has to do with adding this in front of it. This is actually ruining my calculation. But why? I'm not sure. Maybe this question is too easy that no one's answering, or maybe it's too hard. This is always hard to tell. Yes, string concat. Yes. So indeed, the answer is string concat. Yes, I got some more. Maybe just to be a bit impatient here. Yes. So I'm trying to mix them, and this is really going wrong. So it starts with concatenating these two, and then this has become a string. And then it actually has 2 options. So if this were Python, for example, it would just crash because it would say, oh no, what you're trying to do here is something I cannot make sense of. You're trying to add a number to a string. You try to add a number to a string. Terrible. But JavaScript just says, oh, all right, so we're talking about strings here. Sure, I'll concat them like strings. So if I actually want to have it like adding the numbers, and I can put this between just braces, and then it's gonna do this part first, and these are still numbers. And then I can actually just put the operation in front of it. So now it is working. So let me just go ahead and adjust this real quick so that we have the good example online in a bit before you're gonna be doing exercises yourselves. Mm. Braces again. And so do the divide one. Mm. All right, so I'm gonna run this again, and you see all the answers are the same. Now we can actually see our operations, and our output gets a bit easier to read. Good question, Sriti. So Sriti is asking what would happen if we would be doing it the other way around, and then it would actually work. So if I would say number 1 plus number 2, I'm not putting in the spaces here, but actually nicer if I do, then just add the plus sign like this. So right now it's just going to be starting with adding these, and it's like, number. Oh, right, another number. Great, can do this. And then at this point, it makes this into a string. So if I'm going to be asking of the type of this whole thing, it's going to say, oh, wow, that's a string. But it's not going to find out it's a string until it gets here. So it's really going to go from this from the left to the right, say, oh, a number, yay, another number. And then, all right, let's make this a string. So then it would be adding these numbers. Actually, a great question. Does this raise any other questions at this point? If not, then I'm going to be copying all this over again. Good. So these were only parts of all the operators we're having. So I'm also really eager to show the assignment operator today yet. And also, let's just go ahead and write this in as a comment for myself. So the assignment operator, the unary operators, and well, let's also do the comparison operators and the logical operators. So these are the operators I still want to go through. And then after this, I'm gonna give you some exercises for you to do. So I think this is going to be like maybe 10 to 20 minutes more talking. And then it's time for you to start to do some coding. And clearly, I'm here to help. So I'll get you through this. So let's just do the assignment operator first. So let's just, again, create 2 numbers. And another one. Well, that's maybe, yeah, this is more interesting. So I can assign a new value to number 1, right? We have seen this already. I could say number 1 equals 23. But I could also say number 1 plus equals 4. And then if I'm going to be printing number 1, you'll see that 4 has been added to it. So right now, number 1 is 9 because number 1 equals number 1 plus 4. So actually this is the very same as, well, it's almost the exact same thing as this. So this is just a shorter way of writing it. And you can do the same thing for the minus sign, the division, the modulus. You can all go ahead and assign any value to it while doing an operation. So again, I could say divided by number 2, for example. There we go. And then I can print the results. This actually brings me to a fun other point. This is not really related to assignment operator, but I do want to ask you this. Oh, I need to ask for the value of number 1 in here. You can see it has changed to 1. Because first we have number 1 plus equals 4, so it turns into 9, because 5 plus 4 is 9. Then we do 9 division equals 9, and this means that number 1 has been changed to 1. But, and this is not related to assignment operators, but it's fun. What happens if we do this? Is this going to crash like some languages will, or does this have a nice solution? Does anyone happen to know or guess what will happen? Let's assume not. So, or maybe yes, there we go. So I think Kmishek, maybe I pronounced it wrong. I'm sorry about that, but yes, it's going to be infinity. Most languages will cross carry indeed. Yes. So, for example, in Java, you would get the arithmetic exception, division by 0. Not sure what the exact exception in C# is, but it's definitely not going to be happy when you do this, and JavaScript is just like, "Oh, sure, it's infinity now." So, okay, let's just ask you one more fun question, and then let's go back to the operators. But what is the type of, infinity? Let me just show you. It's a number. So infinity is a number. But that's fun, right? I think this is some really cool choices of the creators of JavaScript. Because as I already said, it's kind of hard to actually get proper error. It has a solution for most of the things you could normally do wrong while programming. Okay, so let's just get rid of that. Just a fun fact. So the unary operator. Does anyone know what that is? The unary operator. Can anyone tell me? Yes, it is a strange word, but it's nice though. Yes, not a number is a number too, which is super fun because in its name it's even that it's not a number, but yes, it is a number. Um, so the unary operator, actually we've seen sort of binary operators right now because you needed two operands in order to do the operation. Even here you needed two operands. You had the number 1 and the 4 as an operand. The unary operator only requires one operand, and it's because it's going to do for something very simple, just adding 1 to it. So if we take the well, let's just go for number 3 here. Oh, let number 3, and then I'm going to be assigning 8 to it. Then I'm going to say number 3 plus plus. And this is actually the same as number 3 equals number 3 plus 1. And you see this a lot while coding the plus plus. Other languages actually also have it. Yes, it's just an increment. You also have the decrement. Yes, really good. C++ has it. Java has it. C# has it. I think Python is a funny one who doesn't have it. But many, many languages have this. If you know another language, chances are you do know the unary operator already. So let's just go ahead and log this result in here. And as you can see, well, I accidentally keep on getting to 9 here. This is really not something scheduled. It's not my secret favorite number or something. But yes. Yes, plus the plus plus post versus pre-operator, there's a slight difference in there. And I actually don't want to dive in this right now. I'm pretty sure it's in the book. Oh, and a fun question from David that I actually don't know the answer to, but there's only one way to find out, right? So he's asking, can you use the unary operator if you are working with an infinity result from before? Honestly, I don't know, but let's just see. So let's just go and do a little experiment over here. And we create number 4 for us to do this. And in there, I don't know, 8 divided by 0 should be infinity. Then we say number 4 plus plus, and then we log it. I think it should be just infinity still, right? But let's see if we actually find a new way to break JavaScript. I doubt it. Nope, still infinity. Nice. Yes, so you can actually do this, and then it's still going to be infinity. Yeah, so there are some details about the unary operator that you'll find in the book that are super interesting. And I actually still need to make the extra resources, but I'm gonna make sure that they are in the extra resources as well, because there are some important details. Well, they're important in very specific situations, but then they are very important in these specific situations. So it's gonna be good if you know this. But for now, let's just go ahead and have a look at the decrement unary operator. And you may have guessed this, but it's just minus minus like this, and then it should be 8 again. Oh, I broke it. Did I? Let's see. Did I ask something really weird? I don't think so. Stop and try again. Hmm. That's weird. Let me go ahead and try my code snippet in Visual Studio Code. Doesn't seem to be too weird. Let's just go ahead and try it again. Maybe it's just busy at the server. That's possible, I guess. Hmm. Not sure why this is breaking here. Well, I get some questions, I think in Spanish, or but I don't speak that. So if you could please translate it to something, I don't know, Dutch, English, German. So let's just go ahead and copy this and refresh our web page. Go back to JavaScript. There we go. I'm not sure what went wrong. It just had a hiccup. Um, oh god. Okay, so let me just ask Google Translate for you. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, maybe because there are so many people on the server right now or something. That's actually very possible. Oh, I went to copy this. I still can't copy it. So, Tiago, if you could maybe translate it to English, because I cannot copy your message, it seems. Also, not this one. So, if you could translate it for me to, well, something that I could understand. So, as I said, like Dutch, English, learning path. I will create a learning path for you. Okay. So I'm gonna be ignoring all the languages. I don't know because I don't really have time for this right now. But if you do chat me in a different language on LinkedIn, I typically do take the effort of translating it, but then I can copy paste it. So that really helps. And I really want to answer you, but I just don't understand the language. Sorry. So instead, let's have a look at the comparison operator. And the comparison operator, well, this might be a total shock, but this is there to compare two values. Portuguese. Yeah, no, definitely not my language, but I would love to learn more languages actually if I ever have to happen at time. But let's first learn more programming languages. Let's learn JavaScript. Okay, confusing comments. So the comparison operator. So let's say, well, we actually have enough numbers already. So let's just go ahead and, well, create a result. And in this result, we're going to store the result of comparing number 3 to number 2. So what we're going to be, well, actually, let's just figure out what number 2 was again. So number 2 was 9. We never touched that. And number 3, it was 8 at this point. So we're asking here, is 8 bigger than 9? And well, clearly the result should be no, but let's just look at the JavaScript way to say this. Um, Come on. Oh, I should probably be logging this if I want to see the result. Yes, that is true. So, and the JavaScript way to say no is false. So I'm asking, is number 3 bigger than number 2? And the answer is false, meaning no. If I turn this around, it's actually going to be true. So I'm asking, is number 2 bigger than number 3? And then the result's going to be true. And this is called a Boolean. And a Boolean is just a special type, and this type can only hold true and false. So either something is or something isn't. And these are all the options you have with a Boolean. So if you think of this in computer science way, it's like 0 or 1. 0 being false, 1 being true. There's actually, well, let's just go ahead and I'm gonna be copying this bit a few times. Yes, we are gonna be using many operators in the same line in a bit when we get to the logical operator. So I'm gonna be copying this over for, well, let's just do one more. So what we could, for example, also do is say, is number 3 smaller than or equal to? So then we add the equal sign to the back. And what we can also compare whether it's the same, and we do this with a double equal sign. It is actually very important. So we're asking right now, is number 3 the same as number 2? Well, the answer is going to be no, but you do this with the equal sign. If you do a single equal sign, it's going to be assigning number 2 to number 3, and then you get unexpected results. If you want to know whether it's not the same, you do exclamation mark equal sign. So let's just go ahead and run this again, and then you get a bunch of falses and trues. So the first question that we asked was, is number 2 bigger? It's 9 versus 8, so yes, it's bigger. Is it bigger or the same? Or well, it's smaller. So is number 3 smaller than number 2? Yes. Is it smaller or the same? Still yes, because the case was smaller. Is it the same? Nope. It says false. Is it not the same? Yes. So let's just go ahead and override number 2 with also 8. And let's see what's the outcome right now. So now we had true, true, false, true. And now we get false, true, true, false. So this first one, false, is going to be looking at this one. Is number 3 smaller than number 2? Well, 8 is not smaller than 8, so it's false. The second one, is it smaller than or equal to? And yes, the equal to part is true, so it's going to be true. Then over here, the question is it the same? Well, it's 8 and 8, so yes, it is. And then here we have, is number 2 not the same? Well, it is the same, so this answer is false. There are some details here that are actually important for JavaScript when you compare strings. And also the triple equal sign. So when you have triple equal sign, but also I'm not going to do this right here, but I'm going to make sure that you'll read about this in the extra resources. It's explained in the book as well, so if you just go over the first 2 chapters, you'll find this information as well, but for now, let's just stick to this. Yes, so that's actually a good point. So let's just go ahead and add in this one. Actually, all of a sudden forgot whether this is only Python related. No, it's not. So this can be done here as well. So let's just do. So if you do the comma separation, you can just add in multiple values, and it's going to print them all with a space in between. So 4, comma, and then. Oh, there you go. You can see it better. Yes, that's a good suggestion, Eunice. So just one more that I want to show you before I'm going to send you off with the exercises. And this is the logical operators. And actually there are just 3 that we need to deal with here. This is and, or, and not. So at this point my head is like, am I going to be very lazy and copy this and then just type something extra in the back? Or I'm going to take the whole effort to type this line again, but then let's just go ahead and go for that last option because it's going to be more clear. Let's just say number 4 is 4 and number 5 is 5 because, well, this way it's easy to remember. Then we have a let result over here, and we're going to say if number 4 is bigger than number 5, or let's just say number 4 doesn't equal number 5. So let's just run this. Oh, actually, let's just remove all this other stuff, paste it over to our other file. Oh. Yes, I was thinking so. I need to. Copying is the best. Yes, but sometimes copying is actually inefficient laziness. Like I really love being lazy. It's like my favorite thing, but it's actually not always better to be copying, because sometimes you need to do even more typing when you have to do this. Um, so what we need to do is we need to do not use the word or over here. I think I've been doing too much SQL lately, but I want to. We need to use the double pipes, as I think Gary was pointing out. Let's see, where is my StreamYard? Okay, I lost it. There it is. Yes. So, oh yeah, so you guys are all helping me. Thank you so much. It's so nice of you. Um, oh no, yes. So indeed. So what we need the double pipes. So I want to see number 4, whether that's bigger than number 5 or number 4 is not equal to number 5. So in this case, it's going to be true if either one of these statements is true. So if this one or that one is true, this whole thing is going to evaluate to true. So let me show you. Well, again, you need to print it if you want to see the result. There we go. As you can see, this is true. Well, why is this true? Well, number 4 is clearly not bigger than number 5, but they're not the same. So because of this part, it is true. If I'm going to be changing this into and, so let me just go ahead and copy it now, because now it is definitely saving me typing words. So this is going to be and, not like this, but like this. Then it's actually going to be false, because for and, both parts of the equation need to be true. And now, since this one is not true, it's going to be false. So there we go. True and false. Yes, so in Pascal or Basic, it would be and or. And I think also in SQL, but I'm not sure anymore at this point. There is one more that I want to show, and that's the not. And not is actually just flipping the boolean. So if we have a certain boolean, say, let's just call it b, and we put true in this, and we want to print not b, then we get the opposite. So it's going to be false. This, and let's just do or and like this. There we go. True, and this one is false. But this could actually be more interesting as well. So instead, we could have something like this. Then this would evaluate to a boolean. It would be stored in there, and then it would actually convert it like this. But what we could also do, we could also just do this right there, and then just have the exclamation mark in front of it. And then it would be true, because it's not bigger, so this is false, but then we flip it, so it becomes true. Any questions about this? Let me go over the questions. Yes, so Eunice is saying console log true is printing out true on the screen. It is, yes. So if you log true, it's just going to be printing true. Let's see. Whether I teach every week on YouTube? Well, no, but the next 2 weeks I will be teaching. And then some questions that I might answer later to Tiago once I've managed to translate them. Some strange bird. Yeah, I think I've got most questions from before. So Gary is asking, is the exclamation mark considered a unary operator? Well, I mean, it only requires one operand, right? So I would guess so. But usually when we talk about the unary operators, we just mention the increment and decrement operator. But, well, it is a unary operator because it's just working on one operand. So I would say yes. Okay, then I'm gonna head over to the Discord channel and send the PDF of the slides. Let me just show you the slides so you can see what's coming. go. So the first exercise is going to ask you to just create a little program that's going to ask for the user's name, and then oh, actually, we didn't do this yet. Sorry. So I need to adjust this one a bit. But this exercise is actually right from the book, and we need to use the type of operator. And this type of operator is going to show the type of all of these values. So before you run it, just think in your head, but you can think of the type this is going to be. So this requires you use the console log and the type of operator. And then this one, we're going to be using the assignment operators and print the results. And the first question, I'm just going to quickly change that so that you just use it to use the prompt that we have seen to store the variable and then just print hi and then the name of this variable like we have seen as well. Then I'm going to be available on Discord for questions. And then in the next class, next week, we're going to start with very briefly discussing the exercises. And this will both function as a way for you guys to go over all of the things we covered today again. And then afterwards, we'll be continuing with the topics of next week. We're going to be talking about arrays, objects, and some statements such as the if statements and loops. So if you haven't done so yet, just go ahead, go to the Discord, and I'm going to be sharing the materials right away on there right now after the little adjustment. There we go. Print. If you have difficulties accessing the Discord channel, let me just work out a different way to actually be getting you the slides. Mm. So they are being sent over right now. I'm not sure if you guys are currently on the Discord. I see there's quite some people online, but just go to this link and then you can join the Discord and you will get the slides. There's no way for me to share them here, but if this is a problem, then I could probably go ahead and share them via some other download link. I can see David can access the slides, so that's really good. Thank you for the confirmation. The Discord link, it's also in the chat at this point, but it's https://pact.link/gsbook, and GSB from the GS book is with uppercase. I'm not sure if that matters. And I see some more questions pop up. So the type of, whether that's a unary operator. Well, again, I would say so, since this only requires one operand. And Gary's sharing the ones for the C language. Yes. Well, clearly you have, yeah, so in C, the logical negation is a unary operator. All right, so if you can't find the Discord, please let me know in the chat. There are some people who have shared the link for you. I've also tried to share the link. It looks like the right link, actually. So let me just show it once more. And then if you go there, you will find the slides. And in these slides, you'll find the exercises at the end. If you have any questions doing this exercise, you can ask so in the Discord channel as well. And next week, we're actually going to be starting with briefly discussing an exercise to do a quick recap of the day before we're going to dive into the objects, arrays, if statements, and loops. And as I said, I'm going to be sharing some resources for you to study further. So I'm going to be sticking around for some more questions, but if I don't get any questions within, let's say, 2 minutes, I'm going to be ending the broadcast. I'm just going to keep an eye on the Discord channel to answer any questions you may have. Oh, that's a good one. So apparently it's not showing up in the LinkedIn chat. So I think it's good that I have pinned one because it should be on the screen. But you will have to then go ahead and type the link, but it's just a few characters. So I think it should be good to go. So once more, if someone may not be able to see it, it's https://pact.link/gsb book. So GSB from GS book, it's going to be in uppercase. So it's J, sorry, it's JavaScript. So JS, uppercase, B uppercase, and then just the rest of the word from book. GS book. All right, I'm going to be closing the session. I hope you guys are going to be all here again next week. And thank you so much for your active participation. That was really great. So have a lovely Saturday. And if you have any questions, I'll be on Discord.